In this video, I'm going to show you how you can crush everyone by following these 10 killer paddle tips. Let's go. Tip number 1 is all about shifting with your partner at the net position. This tip will allow you to cover every angle so that you don't get caught down the line or down the middle. When I'm at the net position, imagine the basket is a person here as well. If I'm playing down the line here, the opponent there has two main options, and that is down the line back here or down the middle. The angle, the little gap over there, is very, very hard for them to hit. So if I play a ball down the line to this person here, I need to be around here and the basket needs to be around the middle to cover the middle and the line gaps. If they do manage to play in that gap over there, you kind of just have to be like fair play and let them have it, but you want to force them to play the trickiest shot. Much better to get beaten there than it is down the middle or down the line here, because that's much easier for them to hit. I always like to think if they do get it in there, it's like, that's fine, they'll probably miss the next one. It's gonna be a 1 in 5 shot. So if I now play diagonal into this corner here, that's when I need to step over to the middle, because this opponent has two options now. Down the line there and this middle. It's very hard for them again to go across me here, and I could probably cover most of that. And if they do manage to get it, then again, fair play, let them have it. That will make you and your partner so hard to beat at the net position. The next tip to crush your opponents is to learn how to pop the ball out the court. This is a very easy method, don't worry. What they call a Hollywood shot, in the sense that it looks very impressive, but it's not that hard to learn. In case you don't know, popping the ball out the court is simply this. So you're going out by 4, straight out. And if you saw there, it's all in this wrist technique. I've got a whole other video of popping the ball out the court. I'll leave the link in the description. But basically you want to use this wrist, and it's the best way to get an ultimate winner against your opponent. So I'm just using the wrist above the ball and I'm going straight down. And you can go out the side, you can go out the back, or you can go out the other side as well. So in case you're wondering when to do this shot, you want to do it when you do a very, very good volley. Very tough ball for the opponent to return, and then you want to step in super close to the net and try and pop it out the side. Okay, let me show you. With a low ball, Kai's really struggling to dig that out. I can step in and then I can look to pop it out. Tip number 3 is to always hit to the opponent that is at the back of the court. The most frustrating thing about paddle is you learn about pushing the net position, always lobbing the opponent so you can take the net position, run to the net after the serve, and then you play with players that don't do it. They just sit at the back all day because they probably come from squash, or they don't really understand the strategy and tactics of paddle. If you ever play someone like this, always hit to them if they're at the back of the court, because it's the easiest way of taking the net position. It's almost like a golden rule in paddle. If you see the opponents at the back of the court, you just hit to them, what I like to call an approach shot, which is where you just sort of chop the ball fairly slow, but make sure you get length on it, and then you take the net position yourself. Let's imagine there's someone at the net on the left side here. If Kai is just staying at the back, I'm going to play like an approach shot. It's sort of a push and drive. So remember, it's golden rule paddle. If you hit the ball past the white line, you take the net position. So that includes anyone who's at the back for one moment, you just hit to them and then you can take the net. Right, tip number 4 is more of a tactic. It's one of my favorite tactics. I teach this to a lot of my clients, and it is called reset the rally. So the main strategy of paddle is to take the net position, push the opponents back, try and maintain the net position, and then hopefully build the point from there and get a winner. Often in paddle, the rallies can get very messy though. Opponents splitting, running all over the place as they're not quite in the right position. This is where I want you to try and reset the rally. Whenever you feel the rally sort of getting a little bit out of hand, the ball's coming faster for you, you're moving out of position, that's when the best thing to do is try and play either a big lob or try and push your opponents to the back of the court so you can regain the net position and then continue building the point from there. A lob is probably the best choice with this one because it gives you a lot of time to reset the rally. Otherwise, you'll find the rallies just get faster, 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 balls are flying, and that's when a mistake can likely happen. The best example of this is when you're having like a volley battle mid-game. One of the best shots you can do is a lob over them because it resets the rally and pushes them back. Tip number 5 is to get onto everythingpaddle.co.uk and find the perfect paddle racket for you. Having the perfect paddle racket will help you crush better opponents, and we've got loads of tools on Everything Paddle to help you do this. You can answer 5 questions on our racket quiz and it'll give you some suggestions for the best racket for you. There's a compare paddles feature where you can choose up to 4 rackets and compare all of the features from power, control, comfort, material, shape and more. And if that isn't enough for you, you can contact me personally for advice via the WhatsApp button on the website. Tip number 6 is more like a general rule that I like to use in my matches. I say this to a lot of my clients as well. It really simplifies things with overheads and volleys as well. The closer you are to the net, the more I want you to let the ball drop and play with more spin. So if you get a high ball here, I want you to play more like that. The further you are back, I want you to play this ball higher, slower, with slightly less spin as well. Because the further back you are, you need to play it slower, and it's quite hard for your timers to let it drop perfectly. You can play it a little bit more like this. And if you're all the way back here, you can sort of play it more like this. So really slow. The idea is the further back you are, you need to play it slower to give yourself more time to regain the net position. When you're at the net, you can play it fast because you're already there. And when you're sort of midway, you can sort of play it kind of medium pace because it's not too hard to get back to the net position. The next tip is a really good piece of advice that I've got for when you play players that are better than you, playing top level players. Maybe you're in a tournament, you've got to play some tough opponents, or maybe you've got a social match where you know the opponents usually beat you. This advice is play the ball, not the opponent. This is advice that I heard early on when I was starting to play paddle against better players, and I use it when I play sort of high level GB players who often will kill me 6-love, 6-love. What happens usually when people play better players is they try and play better shots. They try and play faster and harder. They try and kill the ball quicker because they feel like they need to because they're playing these better opponents. That often leads to the player actually playing a lot worse. They make a lot more mistakes. They don't play tactically very well. So what they need to do instead is just play the ball that comes to them rather than thinking about who the opponents are. This happened to me recently. Me and my partner played 2 GB players at a local club and we got absolutely destroyed, especially in the first set because we were playing so fast and hard and quick because we felt we needed to. But if we'd played slow like we usually do and played on normal game, we probably would have still got beaten, but we might have had a bit more success on court. The next tip is another sort of general rule I like to have, and that is when you're defending, I want you to play most of your shots down the line, and when you're attacking, I want you to play most of the shots cross court or diagonal. When you're playing down the line to someone when defending, if the ball comes back to you, it's a lot easier to defend because it will come straight, and if it hits the back glass, it will come straight as well. That's a lot easier than if it came in at like an awkward angle. That's a lot harder. When you're at the net position, that's when I want you to play majority of your shots cross court or diagonal. That is because there's a lot more space in the court, so a lower chance of missing, but also the main reason is it's way harder for opponents to defend it. The ball comes off the wall at that angle there. It's very tricky for opponents to get that ball back compared to if you played it down the line fairly straight. The next tip is to use attacking combinations on your opponents. My personal favourite with this one is playing a volley down the middle and then a volley into the corner. Let me show you. Volley down the middle, volley to the corner. The idea is that you're moving your opponent around so they're not in the best position to defend the ball. Another great combination is to use the chiquita and the lob, so bringing them in close and then using the lob to push them back. Final tip is to use one of my favourite shots, and that is the forehand volley to the cage if you're playing on the right. If you're playing on the left, you can do backhand volley to the cage, and if you're left-handed, it's the same, it's just the other way around. And that is basically just coming across. When you get a ball that comes up to around about here, you get pushed out wide, that is to go straight back across towards the cage. This shot adds variety to your game. It's very, very hard for people to read it and predict it, and the cage is so unpredictable, the ball can come up or it can come down. Exactly the same on this side, just coming across and playing your backhand across the cage. Even if the shot doesn't work and the ball comes up, or even if it's the sidewall, you're still moving your opponent out of position, which means you might get set up for another winner. It's almost like another attacking combination. One to the cage, one to the back wall.